We're live on VSiN and DraftKings Network alongside three-time Super Bowl winning executive Michael Lombardi. I'm Stormy Bonantoni. Lots more to get to, including No Way, No Doubt. We will have the one and only Mike Palm, VP of Operations here at Circa Resort and Casino, where I am broadcasting from for the final half an hour of the program. A little quarterback matchmaker. But to get things started, Michael, could we be near the finish line with a Chris Jones deal to Kansas City? He posted moments ago on social media. Or I guess a little bit earlier this morning, and I just didn't see it. But neither here nor there. Semantics.
I didn't see it either. What did he do? Tell me.
He posted KC ... and a screenshot of his phone on a call that it looks to have been going on for about an hour, and it's Andy Reid tackling him on the ground at the Super Bowl. Is this a sign that we are near the finish line?
I would say it's more than a sign. I would say that it's probably done. I would just – now, again, I don't have inside knowledge on this, but I would say that, it's pretty good that he's – no player's going to tweet that he's – that phone call was tying everything loose ends together and making sure they got the deal. So, yeah, I think it's no doubt. Now, we heard earlier in the week, and this could qualify for lying season, that Chris Jones wasn't taking a hometown discount. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden 2 days later he got a deal done. So – I think this is a deal done, Stormy. Just the way things go, and why else would you tweet what he just tweeted if it wasn't?
And why else would you yell on a stage in front of thousands of Kansas City Chiefs fans that I'm coming back for another ring and the next year and the next year? So yes, it was expected that this would get done. The Chiefs did elect to tag L'Jarius Sneed, and I know you expect that to be more of a tag and trade situation, get that off of the books, but big deal for them to re-sign Chris Jones. We'll see if we get one of those insider tweets out relatively soon, today or tomorrow, about what the numbers might be coming from that standpoint. But a huge get for that Kansas City defense to keep their best player.
No question. And they need them inside. I mean, I think these inside guys are becoming more valuable than ever before because they can affect the quarterback in the pocket. They can get into the paint. They can wreak havoc. They can get in front of the quarterback's face, which is why Christian Wilkins and his 10 sacks making it to the open market is kind of a rarity. We saw Hargrave, who was a third-round pick, make it to the market twice. He went from Pittsburgh to Philly, great signing by them, and then Philly to San Francisco. So it's hard to find these inside guys that can rush. I mean, remember, the Colts paid a first-round pick for DeForest Buckner because he was so good. They were able to trade him for that. I mean, if Miami wasn't going to re-sign Wilkins, they should have traded him and got a lot for him. They're only going to get a compensatory 3, and today they signed Jonnu Smith, the tight end from Atlanta, by way of New England, by way of Tennessee, which is interesting because they rarely throw the ball to tight end.
Mm-hmm. A lot of layers to that by way of. For the Kansas City Chiefs, though, so they get, ideally, based on this picture, Chris Jones secured. They don't have to worry about their quarterback at all, and Patrick Mahomes is going to be under contract until 2031. Meanwhile, there are a number of quarterbacks that are hitting free agency or that have question marks about where they're going to land in the draft. So let's put you to the test, Michael. We're going to play a game of quarterback matchmaker. We've talked a lot about where we anticipate a lot of these players going: Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. But where should they go? So we're going to look at each one of these players. I want you to tell me where you think they should go, where they make the most sense. And after that, we can't use that team again. So let's say we start with Kirk Cousins. You pick him to stay with the Minnesota Vikings, hypothetically. Then the Vikings are off the board for Russell Wilson or anybody else. So let's start with Kirk, because we do anticipate him being the first domino that needs to fall. He is the most... the player that most people are interested in terms of free agency. The Falcons are minus 225 to land him. To stay with Minnesota, plus 150. Steelers and Raiders 10-1. Broncos and Pats 15-1. Which team should Kirk Cousins go to?
He should go to the Vikings because he's comfortable there. They know him well. They've got the offense. He doesn't have to relearn anything. He doesn't have to find his way around and move his family. Mm-hmm. But he should go to Minnesota. That's where he should go. But for this exercise, I'm going to put him in Atlanta because, I think Atlanta is so desperate they'll pay him that third-year guarantee. And Zach Robinson can sell him on the fact that we'll run the same offense that you've been running. So let's put him in Atlanta. Let's put him there because there is some continuity between Zach Robinson's offense and what he's running in Minnesota with Kevin O'Connell. Remember, O'Connell was at the Rams before he went to Minnesota, just like Zach Robinson.
Okay, so Atlanta is off the board for you. I'm saying that he stays with Minnesota. So that's going to be my answer here for all of the reasons that you already laid out.
Good.
And just the fact that it's hard to have a reliable quarterback these days. You've got one. You know what you're going to get that can make the playoffs if you keep this core group together. So that's where I'm going. Let's go now to Russell Wilson, who we learned today via a report that he has a meeting set up in person with the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. The Steelers are an odds-on favorite, -135, for Russell Wilson to take his next snap there, followed by the Raiders, Vikings, Falcons, and Patriots. Where should Russell take his next snap?
Minnesota. I'm going to put him in Minnesota because I think they'll need a starting quarterback. I think he'll have a chance to play in an offense with Kevin O'Connell and, with Justin Jefferson, a legitimate number one receiver. And they're going to be willing to want to have him on the team. I think they've got to take at least 1 year to look at that. So I'm going to say Minnesota.
Should that opening be available like it is in your situation? I agree. I think that would make a lot of sense. Plus 450 the price should that come to be. I'm going with the Raiders here. At plus 260, Jimmy G's gone. Aiden O'Connell ain't it. He's cheap, as we have mentioned a number of times. Plus, it's a division rival player that you're getting for that cheap. And if you're Russell Wilson, you get the opportunity to say, hey, okay, Sean Payton, I'll go up against you head-to-head twice a year. Low risk, high potential reward, I think, with the Vegas Raiders. How about Justin Fields? The Falcons are the favorite for Fields as well. Plus 125, that number. The Steelers plus 250, Bears plus 275, which, why are they even on this odds board anymore? Vikings plus 550, Raiders plus 650.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because without a place to go, without a starting quarterback job to go to, if you're Justin Fields, where do you go? And I said this on the pod today, and I'm going to say it here. If I'm Justin Fields, I try to get Philadelphia interested in me as the backup to Jalen Hurts. Play within his offense, understand that offense, and, be able to handle that job. Mariota's a free agent. I can come in on the cheap deal. I'm not going to pick up the 5th year. Play behind Hurts, play on a good team, play from in front, see if they can change the perception of me, and run an offense that I think Jalen Hurts has been able to run effectively at times that Fields could run. I think this notion Fields is from the Kyle Shanahan scheme is wrong. I think he's not that. It requires it requires your feet and your arm to be kind of linked together, and that's not. Fields is more of a loose play player. Run it. So my feeling would be Philadelphia. I can't wait to hear yours, though. If
you think, anybody out there, if you think that this is in a world of reality where Justin Fields could go to the Philadelphia Eagles, 250 to 1 is the price on that. But that's it. And this is probably a rhetorical question, Michael, but you are very dead set on Justin Fields not a starter in this league.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just saying that what I think he needs to rebrand himself. I know that everybody thinks he's ready. They should trade Brock Purdy for him. They think that he's that. But when you go through the jobs, right? I know, but you talk about Twitter. You go through the jobs. Okay, Minnesota might have one. Atlanta has one. Tampa's going to probably re-sign Mayfield. Okay, so they do that. Where are the starting jobs? Where are they? So, so my point with this is why I pick Philly is only because Philly has an opportunity to show the kid, hey, look, we'll rebuild yourself. If he goes to Atlanta, why would he go to Atlanta if they're going to sign Kirk Cousins? Why would he go to New Orleans if they got Derek Carr and they got all the money in him?
So I say Atlanta because I think Kirk Cousins is going to stay in Minnesota, which is we don't know. But just based on this exercise, Kirk Cousins, I already picked him that he's going to be a Minnesota Viking next year. So I picked Atlanta here at plus 125. Pair him with those young weapons. Embrace the read option game with him and Bijan Robinson. I just don't know. My question is, and I was talking to Elliot about this before the show, is with Zach Robinson, if he's so set on having to run his system one specific way, or if, depending on the player you get in there, you're willing to adapt. I would hope and think that would be the case. But I think Justin Fields would be a good fit here based on the talent that he would have around him. Let's go to...
Yeah, go ahead. I just think, to me, this scheme's hard. Yeah. I don't see that scheme fit, but I get you. I agree. And look, Ryan Poles was the reason they drafted him in Chicago. He was the general manager.
Let's go to Caleb Williams, though, because the Bears do have that top overall selection right now. He's a $9 favorite to go to the Bears. In my mind, there's no other option if you are Chicago at this point. But which team should Caleb Williams go to?
Chicago.
Okay.
I mean, I think to me, Chicago got their answer. there's nobody offering a first or a second day pick for Fields yet. Now, maybe it'll happen. I don't know. Never say never. But, look, the league doesn't view him as a starter. Why should you? You have him.
And if you're Chicago, you're in such a unique opportunity having the top overall selection 2 years in a row. He is the guy who's been talked about for both of those years as being the top selection in this draft. You have to take him. I know there's all the talk about Jaden Daniels and other guys that are climbing the ladder. It's Caleb Williams. I think you're going to catch a lot more grief if you take a chance on Jaden Daniels and he doesn't work out. Speaking of which, this last minute, Jaden Daniels, where does he go?
I think Jaden Daniels should go to Washington. I think he'd be the number 2 pick overall in the draft. I mean, I'm working through these quarterbacks, and I think to me, when you start to break them down, there's so much skill in this player that, look, there was times at Arizona State he didn't look great, but he was always very talented. I think last year he proved it, the body. We need to watch him work out and do all that stuff. But for me, I think Washington would be the right fit. He's probably the second best quarterback in the draft, just superficially looking at it.
Yeah, he does have a slighter frame. After it was Drake May, who was talked about for a long time as being that clear-cut number 2 guy, he is now the favorite to be the number 3 overall pick to the New England Patriots, or anyone who might trade up for that spot. Worth monitoring. We are going to hit the break. When we come back, it's time for No Way or No Doubt, looking at a number of the headlines around the league.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Stormy Bonatoni, on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Baseball is back, and what better way to hit off the grapefruit and cactus leagues than with VSiN's free MLB betting primer. This primer will tell you how to bet on spring training and continue all season long with our VSiN Experts World Series Futures Analysis. Our free MLB betting primer has basic baseball betting advice for anybody new to wagering on the sport, plus a breakdown on how to use sabermetrics for more data-driven bettors to make this your best season yet. Download the free MLB betting primer now, vsin.com/guide. That's VSIN.com/guide for free. Make sure you go do that now.
Do you disagree with these takes?
No way.
No way.
Or do you approve?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. No doubt in my mind.
No diggity, no doubt. It's time to ask Michael Lombardi. No way or no doubt.
All right, there's been lots of talk about where Russell Wilson will land. He is expected to meet with the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up at some point this week, with the new league year getting underway next week. But no way or no doubt, Michael, wherever he goes, he will start over 17 and a half regular season games for his next team. So he'll start next season and beyond wherever he goes.
No way. No way, Stormy. There's no way you're getting me on that one.
Okay.
Like, you knew that was going to get rejected like a layup coming after Bill Russell. I mean, there's no way. I mean, when you put the 17 and a half in there, I thought, okay, that means, either playoffs or, 2 years. I don't see it. I mean, unless it's a huge turnaround, but I don't see it. I think a lot of this, too, is the disconnect. That's what Mecklenburg said. Like, you don't change that overnight. You don't change that. You need an event in your life to humble you like that. I think Kurt Warner got that in his life, right? When Kurt Warner left the Giants, when he got cut after a stint in St. Louis, he went to Arizona kind of with his tail between his legs as a backup quarterback, and then he got his career back. But I don't see that with Russ. I just don't. Do you?
I mean, I'm not a Russell Wilson fan, just naturally, especially knowing the rivalry with the 49ers historically. But generally speaking, I think he's aging. I don't think he's got the same stuff. He did have a better year this year than the abysmal year 1 with Denver, but I'm just not a believer. I'm not a fan. Justin Fields, I know you are not a fan of either. And I kind of teed you up with this question last segment about whether or not you thought that he was a starter in this league. But just because we feel a certain way doesn't mean he couldn't land somewhere else. So no way or no doubt, Justin Fields will start at quarterback week 1 this season for his next team.
No way. I don't see it. I mean, unless what people are lying to me, and I've asked other people what they've heard, and no one's heard his name as, if you're giving up a third day pick, which means Saturday, that's 4th through 7th round. You're not saying you're coming in to be the starter. You're saying come in and compete. Now, do I think he could start some games next year? Yes. But from the first day of the league year after Labor Day, when, the Eagles are in Brazil, do I think he'll be a starting quarterback? No, I don't. There's no way I think that. There's no way I see that. And I think there's evidence to support that people are concerned about what, everybody keeps saying what offense to run for him, but they've tried a lot of them, right? They've tried a lot of offenses. I'm just not sure it can deliver what you need it to deliver.
Yeah, he has been talked about in a way as if he's significantly better than what we've seen on the field. 10 wins, though, in his career in Chicago, as we referenced a number of times here on the program. How about Aaron Rodgers, who, of course, is coming back for year 2 with the Jets, going to get that 5th snap in at some point. But Rodgers this week made some comments about his potential future on the Look Into It podcast with Eddie Bravo. Take a listen.
How can I be my best with my diet today, with my fluid intake? Just everything down to a T to try and get better. And I got back on the practice field late in the season and couldn't get to a top speed sprinting, but really been in a good place rehab-wise from the start and feeling really good. And, again, I'm hopeful I can play 2 or 3 or 4 more years, but you need to have some good fortune there too.
So you go from saying, I'm going to play a couple years to now we're talking 3-4 years. So no way or no doubt, Michael, Aaron Rodgers playing 3 or 4 more years for the Jets would be a disaster.
No doubt. I mean, look, I think the way the players are handled today, I thought what he said was really good, right? My rehab, my hydration, my rest, all the things he's doing. The longevity of quarterbacks in the league has extended itself by rule and by the power of medical science, right? You need to do this. You need to take care of your body this way. And he has done those things, and I think there's no question his arm is still alive and can throw. Look, when Brady retired, Brady wasn't playing at a poor level. The Bucs were not a good team, but he wasn't playing at a level that you said, man, that guy needs to retire. So I think a lot of this is going to come down to watching him play coming off this Achilles, because we just assume at his age it's going to be easy to do. I'm not ready to assume that for Kirk Cousins, and I'm not ready to assume that for Aaron Rodgers. So I think it would be a disaster for the Jets if he went further. Now, if he comes in and they win, which I don't see how they can, but look, we talked about that in the earlier part of the show. They're not set up to win. They're really not. And so I think it would be hard. If he has a frustrating year, which I fully expect based on all the things I've read that have come out of New York and based on all the things that I've seen from just witnessing it from afar, it could be a hard job.
Oh. Dak Prescott's entering the final year of his contract. He feels confident that they are going to get a new deal done. No way or no doubt, Dak Prescott will be the highest paid quarterback in NFL history with his next deal.
Oh, great question. I would say no doubt. I mean, I think they'll try to make it look like that's the case. I think there's no doubt he might be. This is a gray one here. I think Tua could easily come. They might pay Tua like this. It's interesting. We had Mike Samich on, and then the break he's a Dolphin fan, and he wouldn't pay Tua all the money they're going to pay him. I mean, making Dak Prescott the highest paid quarterback in the league is ridiculous, but the way the league is with the salary cap increases, I don't think there's a doubt he's going to get close to it, if not above it.
3 straight 12-win seasons, yet no NFC championship to be heard from in nearly 30 years. The NFL has been considering other options for the kickoff, Michael, in an attempt to encourage more returns, but also considering player safety and lowering the risk of high-speed collisions. No way or no doubt, the league should revolutionize the kickoff.
No way. I mean, I think the kickoff's a great play. One of the things I've always believed is kickoff determines the toughness of your team, how you cover kicks, how you handle those things. I hate to see us get rid of that. Now, I haven't seen an example of where we're not Arena League football. And so, you don't want to just take away the physicality out of the game because, look, the ball's getting kicked through the end zone quite a bit. That's not going to change. And I know the new rule says if it goes out of the end zone, you get the ball at the 35, okay? So now you're going to have to kick the ball in play. how do you cover because of the closeness of the two coverage teams? Maybe that would make it better. I would need to see that before I would sign off on it, because I don't really want to change the kickoff coverage team. I think it develops toughness within your team, and it develops players for other positions as they come in. When you're good in the kicking game and you have instincts, you'll be good in regular downs. I mean, some of the players, Frankie Luva, who's going to be a linebacker down at Carolina, he was a special teams ace for the Jets. He's been a good player at Carolina. He's going to make a lot of money, but he started his career covering kicks.
There were a lot of things that the XFL did well that I would be interested if the NFL took a look at. The kickoff was not one of them, though. I don't think that should happen either. But I would like the idea of what they did in the fourth quarter. Maybe instead of a 4th and 15, you make it a 4th and 20. But instead of an onside kick in the fourth quarter, if you're trailing, to have the opportunity to convert a 4th and 20, I think would be very exciting, considering the percent. What is it? 5% of onside kicks actually end up working out. That would be a fun, exciting way to change things up potentially. I like that.
Yeah, your odds would go way up, because we've seen teams convert 4th and 20. Yeah. We've seen that, at the end of the game. So you'd have a better chance if it went to 4th and 20 than trying to get an onside kick. To me, it changes your thinking if you went that way on strategy, right? Every time I'm watching a game, I'm trying to figure out when it becomes an onside kick game, because that means you've won the game, because the chances of you not getting the onside kick are remote, like you mentioned, 5%. So when you make it an onside kick game, you're 95% sure you're going to win the game.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to hit you with one more, because Packers head coach Matt LaFleur and Bears head coach Matt Eberflus sat courtside together at a college basketball game. No way or no doubt, Packers and Bears fans should be upset to no end that their coaches are hanging out together. This is supposed to be a rivalry.
No way. Come on. They can go enjoy a game.
Fine.
But look, they were both representing, they're kind of right in the middle there. Milwaukee, Green Bay to Milwaukee, Chicago to Milwaukee. It's the perfect meeting spot. I'm sure they have good friendship. Hey, look, if they were sitting up in the bleacher seats, I'd say something's wrong, but they had good seats, Stormy. They had really good seats, huh?
Courtside, LaFleur's got the haircut and the popcorn. Just living the dream.
Big Daddy was so happy to see that he got a haircut. I'm sure it was great, right?
Mike Palm will join the show for the final half hour. We'll get Palm's Pressing 3 in the lowdown for Circa's plans, conference tournament weekend, and the big dance. Plus, I want Mike's opinion on announcers who don't know the spreads for their games. Another bonehead comment last night in college hoops. We'll be right back.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Stormy Bonatoni, on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Before the big dance tips off, start betting smarter with a VSiN Pro subscription. Sign up on a VSiN Pro annual subscription today. That'll get you your first year for only $199 instead of our usual $240 price. Just use our promo code Lombardi. That gets you VSiN Pro access to everything we do for the whole year, which includes our daily best bets with a leaderboard to see which VSiN expert has the hot hand, betting splits to show you where the money and bets are moving for every game, betting systems, premium analysis, 24/7 video access, plus our March Mania betting guide with the best bets for every game and round of the tournament. Remember, use that promo code Lombardi. First year of VSiN Pro access for only $199 at vsin.com/subscribe. Welcome back to the Lombardi Line alongside Michael Lombardi, Stormy Bonatoni with you. We welcome live in studio Mike Palm, VP of Operations here at Circa Resort and Casino. And speaking of the madness, I'm sure you guys are getting geared up and prepared for all the conference tournaments that are going to be in town this weekend. And I was even looking online, sold out for a lot of the stuff for tournament weekend, whether it's here at the Sportsbook or Stadium Swim.
Yeah, it's we're gearing up with the small conferences going on now. Next week we'll be crazy with the major conferences, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday there's a handful of seats left in the paid venues, which would be Stadium Swim and the Sportsbook. We do have the free viewing parties on the third floor here in the Galaxy Ballroom, and then still the traditional one that we started off with 12 years ago down at the D Ballroom, Detroit Ballroom at the D on the 12th floor.
Hey, Mike, when you and Derek and everybody from the D designed Circa and started this project, did you ever think it was going to keep growing like this? I mean, the level of people that come to Stadium Swim and the Sportsbook is just remarkable, and it seems to be growing every single year.
It does, Michael. I have to tell you, I thought the projections for Stadium Swim were high. But also remember back in the early days of design, and we're talking like 2017 and 18, and we would go to the architects for like 6 hours every Wednesday. The concept was just like heavy sports and not much DJ, right? Where it's mostly DJ, and then football, it's on key games, nights games, stuff. But it's mostly DJ, right? The majority of the time is still the audio is DJ. Because I kept saying, who's coming at 10 a.m. on a Thursday to watch the Rays and the Orioles? What are we doing here? And they've adjusted, but the crowds are terrific. That venue's terrific. This book is obviously an attraction unto itself. So I give Derek the credit. He's the one that started the outside bars on Fremont Street, and it was his idea. This pool that has a sports emphasis, and of course building this book, and he's always wanted to do that for many years, and he's made his dream come true. It's
a sports fan's paradise, and you guys have done such a good job of marketing it. I feel like every time I tell somebody that I work here, I do the studio here, it's like, oh my gosh, the giant screens. It's really great. I am curious the difference from conference tournament weekend and the NCAA tournament, whether it's like handle or amount of people that are here. Which is the better weekend for you guys?
Well, so conference tournament weekend is we will actually do more handle because there's more games. And I will start on like next Tuesday, right? And go next Tuesday to next Saturday. Even if you went Wednesday to Saturday or you went Tuesday to Friday, those 4 days will actually do more handle than the first 4 days because there's many more games. Remember, there's 16, 16, 8, and 8. And by Sunday, there's very few people here. We've tried all these different ideas to get people to stay that Sunday. It just doesn't happen, right? A lot of places don't even open their ballrooms or their parties. In terms of handle, just because of the sheer number of games, and actually, in my mind, better betting opportunities in the conference tournaments than necessarily in the NCAA.
Mike, what has been what as you go over this, is there like a sleeper team that people have been putting slips in to bet to future to get to the Final Four?
Michael, it's here and there. We've taken some money on St. Mary's out of the West Coast Conference, who had a big run till Gonzaga beat him here last Saturday. A little bit of money on Duke. I think Duke might be flying under the radar a little bit here. You talk about who's going to be the 4th 1 seed. Probably Tennessee controls their own destiny. I don't know if Arizona does just because the Pac-12 is so down. You might only get 2 teams. But I think Duke and Carolina, after Tennessee, control their own destiny. If Tennessee wins out and wins the SEC, that's the second best conference. I think they'll get the 4th 1 seed. Or if Carolina, whoever wins this game at Cameron this weekend, should go on and run the table, and finish it off, I think they also would have a strong argument for the 1 seed. Does it make much of a difference? I mean, that the 4 and 5 would eventually play each other in a regional final, right?
Speaking of Tennessee, I wanted to ask you about last night. The Vols are up 7 in the winding seconds. South Carolina is getting 5.5 in the game, and they score a dunk with 0.1 seconds left. It ends up not counting. And the announcers in that spot are so bad, just basically saying that it doesn't matter. I don't remember what exactly the verbiage was. It was like, it means nothing. It won't count anyway, something along those lines. How in 2023, with sports betting being so massive for casual bettors and people who do it professionally, that the announcers in that situation don't realize there's still something to be played for?
I think it's almost impossible for that to happen. And I don't know if that comment was supposed to be sarcastic, because how could you not know? Most broadcasts have it incorporated in, or it's at the bottom of the screen.
It was an ESPN game. ESPN Bet. They have their own thing.
I looked at it and I kept replaying it, and I thought it was tongue in cheek, but maybe it wasn't. But I mean,
it didn't feel like it to me.
But how? To your point, how could someone be so unaware? That's all we talk about. All sports broadcasts are now couched from the betting perspective, and you we're one of the ones leading the way with that, with the XFL, USFL coverage, where you made it a preeminent part of the broadcast.
Well, it's funny too. That's something that even in my college football games, like before the game, I give our team a rundown of what we're looking out for in the game. Like that's something that we talk about in our production meetings before we do the games. Also, we had a picture up on the screen. You guys are opening up a new book on Monday here in town.
Yeah, I was there Tuesday, and then they just put the furniture in at Silverton.
Yeah.
And I sent a picture to Michael and Bill Berman when I was there, because he was on McAfee, right, when I was there. So I said, look at this new spot we're going to open. So we're opening this at Silverton, and I was blown away. They took the construction wall down late Monday night into Tuesday morning, and the space just looks terrific. Might even look better than Legends Bay, which we did up in Sparks in northern Nevada. So it's right there as you come in off the parking garage at the Silverton. So it's the first thing people see when they walk in the door. And I think it'll be a terrific spot for us, especially pulling from that Southern Highland type market. It's sort of, Silverton is interesting. Very good restaurants there. Of course, it's sort of centrally located between now Durango, South Point, if you want to carry, and even Green Valley. It's sort of centrally right there in the southwest. So we already see, we were running back almost totally opposite this area of the casino. We've been running a temp book since January 1st. And the right there has been actually like our third best counter behind this one. And then our second best counter is actually Tuscany, because right there off the strip, right a couple blocks. And then Silverton in this little temporary facility has been our third most counter right. So I think it'll be a great spot for us.
Mike, that this thing is going so fast. I mean, it's really kind of hard for me to, and the interest that people have in these games have taken on a whole new light, really, because of there's a dollar bet in this, and whether it's $1 or $10 or $100, I think I love it. You just feel the excitement in the building. I've only been to Vegas once during the Final Four, and I don't think there's anything quite like the last 2 minutes of all those games coming off at the same time when people are on either side.
Well, and it's the first 4 minutes, Michael, because everybody wants to bet first team to 10, first team to 15, right? Yeah. People want the instant gratification, settle your bet, and on to the next one. So, we had this bet in hockey, first 10. Now we have first 5. And even in soccer, is there going to be a goal in the first 33 minutes, first 28 minutes? Everybody wants to make a bet and have it resolved in 15 minutes because that's our culture, right? It's an instant gratification Netflix culture on demand.
Speaking of Netflix, did you guys see about this fight that is coming up between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul?
Can we book this? We're already asking. Can we book this? We want to book this thing, right? This will have tremendous interest.
Please. Yes.
It might be a train wreck, but it will have tremendous interest.
I was shocked when I saw that come through on my timeline today. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, I was going to say, will you book it, Mike? Is there is there laws that you can, or you just have to come up with the right number?
Well, it'll have to do with the Gaming Commission saying that they sign off on whatever body is going to regulate this fight, right, and oversee it. And so if it's something that's accredited or that's legitimate, then they'll let you take it. We took action on the rugby stuff, right? Yep. It was pretty good, actually. Which I am so mad about because, so I went to the rugby event that was here at Allegiant Stadium last week. I'm telling everybody I'm going to bet an underdog parlay here. I'm going to take the Sea Eagles and the Roosters, and I'm going to go. And then the family member, my husband's cousin, lived in Australia for a number of years. He came over for the event. He goes, "Oh no, the favorites are going to blow them out." I was like, "Oh, okay, well, fine. If I trust you, I'll do it easy." Both dogs won. I was so mad. Should have just stuck to my guns there. But I heard the atmosphere was great. It was very good. It was very entertaining. That was my first time sitting down and watching a full rugby game. I know it was union rules versus league rules, but I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun out here at Allegiant, and I really worked on my Australian accent during that time as well. We'll be right back with Palms Pressing 3.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi. Now here is your host, Stormy Bonatoni, on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This week on DraftKings Sportsbook, new customers can deposit $5 and get a no-sweat bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets if that first bet loses. Download the app and use the promo code VSiN when you sign up. VSiN. DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Pressing? Yes, I say it's pressing.
This is Palms Pressing 3.
My mother told me never to answer a question with a question.
Sir, my client has answered every question asked by this committee with the utmost sincerity.
There we go. We got the open. Palms Pressing 3, ladies and gentlemen. We're still working on the graphical component of it for our television viewers, but let's go. Michael, we got The Sopranos. Come on. That's all you can ask for.
I love it.
I'm very excited.
Well done, Elliot. They're doing unbelievable. Amazing.
Only took 6 months. All right, let's start with number one, Michael. The Combine this year seem to have a different feeling, Michael. Caleb Williams wouldn't do a general medical. None of the top 3 quarterbacks threw it all. My question to you is the Combine losing importance in the whole draft process?
No, I think the Combine's always going to remain. The Combine's a little bit like Twitter. There's 1% that has a voice, and everybody thinks it's the majority voice, and yet it isn't. And so, there's always going to be guys that don't work out, the top players. Why, I don't know. I don't think it's because they lack competitiveness. I think that's unfair to label that, right? I don't think it's unfair to say, well, they're just not being competitive. No, I don't see that. What I see is that their agents are telling them we need to control the conditions. Caleb Williams didn't want to take all those physicals, sit on the 7 tables and go through all that orthopedic, which can be a problem at times. So I think it's just a minority. And if you have leverage, if you're Bo Nix and you want to improve your draft stock, which apparently he did, throwing as well as he did and moving around, then I think you have to take part.
All right, speaking of the Combine, question number 2. Michael, I want to ask you about the Wonderlic test and get your thoughts on it. Now, back before the NFL used it at the Combine, Paul Brown used it, Tom Landry used it with their teams to try to predict future success on the field. And the NFL used it all the way up until 2022 when it decided to stop using the test at the Combine. Michael, what is your opinion on the value of the Wonderlic test?
There's really no one test that gives you a definitive answer, right? All it does is lead you to different questions. For example, what we've learned over my career of 35 years is some players that don't score well on the test. Dan Marino didn't score well, but Dan Marino's smart, instinctive, and understands. Sometimes it's a reading comprehension. Sometimes it's feeling rushed, bad day, whatever. All it does is tell you to dig deeper, to ask more questions, to learn, to kind of get through the hurdles that you get put in front of you. So we had standard grades of the Wonderlic for each position. And if you didn't meet that grade, then you would get what we called an M grade on your grade. So it was a lettering system, and obviously the more letters you have, the worse player you become. But you could get that M off. For example, Larry Allen was a really bad test score. I think he had maybe an 8 or a 9. Okay, he played at Sonoma State. He had a history of not being able to achieve academically. Went to Sonoma State because it was the only school. All right, great player. Shouldn't be at Sonoma State. We send a coach out there, Pat Hill, the former head coach at Fresno State. Pat spends a Monday with them, teaches them 3 or 4 run plays, teaches them 3 or 4 pass protections, okay? Tells them to study his playbook, look at things over. I'll be back on Friday. Comes back on Friday, Larry, let's go through what we taught you on Monday. He's got it down cold. That's way more important than the Wonderlic test because that's practical. And so all it does is force you to go in and dig deeper. Because if you just settle for, okay, he did bad on the AC test, like they said C.J. Stroud did, which I don't even know what that test was. Pro Football Focus developed it. I have no idea. But like if you just take that as the concrete answer, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're forced to continue to ask questions. And so the Wonderlic, back even when Landry was using it and when they developed it through that, they used it as a indicator, not as an answer.
Now with Stroud, it was the S2 cognition test that he scored low on, and everybody was knocking him like crazy, and then he ends up being the offensive rookie of the year and just having a remarkable season with Houston.
Yeah, it's very
but nobody said they were wrong on it. It's like your boy Florio, who's never posted the Kyle Pitts thing that said he wasn't talking. He's not going to see that on his site.
Wasn't afraid to make those comments on national television, but when Kyle Pitts fires
he's
back,
ready
we're
to
not
attack everybody on national TV. And then when Kyle Pitts calls him out, he did. Oh, where'd that go? Okay, that's the Rosemary Woods 20-minute gap here. We don't have that.
It's very interesting, different municipality used the Wonderlic test. There was a town in Connecticut that used it for the police department.
Really?
And the average is 20, right? And they would not accept anyone that had a score below 20 or above 27. So this one guy had a score of 32 and they wouldn't let him be a cop. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court because he said he was discriminated against because they said he's too smart to be a cop. And the Supreme Court threw it out. They said it didn't violate equal protection, but they thought it was a poor hiring practice. Anyhow, just a tidbit there with.
Very interesting. I like this background ambiance music, by the way. Okay, let's go to number 3.
Let's go to number 3, Michael. Let's talk salary cap. Most teams anticipated the salary cap going up about 18 to 20 million to the mid 240s. It went up $30 million to $255 million. How will this affect front offices? And is there a team or teams that benefit more from this than others?
Well, I think, Mike, that's a great question. So I think now that you've got this extra money, I think what you need to do, instead of spending it like you're at the buffet line, going down and eating food you don't want to eat or overspending for things, I think what you should do is take the players that are good young players that you want to extend and use this money for them. Don't go into the marketplace and try to sign a player. The worst thing you want to do in free agency is overpay a good player, okay? You can't overpay a great player, but you can overpay a good player. Like, I don't think the Buffalo Bills feel like they overpaid Josh Allen, or the Chiefs feel like they overpaid Patrick Mahomes, or Aaron Donald got overpaid. I don't think that's the case. But where you overpay players is what we see, right? We've seen that guys are getting cut left and right. The Patriots signed Jonnu Smith, they overpaid him. That kind of thing. So I think what you need to do is take this extra money, this windfall, if you will, and reinvest it like any good company would do. Like any company that wants to become greater always takes their profits and reinvest it back into the company. And I think that's what they should do, as opposed to taking it out and signing some offensive guard that's not going to play good enough for you, and you're going to need a guard anyway. The 2 rules of free agency is don't overspend for good players, and never sign a player at a position and still need to fulfill that position. Those are the 2 rules, and I think this windfall is great for young players who are talented that you want to keep. The other thing I think is we're going to keep going up, Mike, as this league expands into a worldwide, a global sensation, and it's anxious to see what happens in Brazil. These numbers are going to keep going in. As I keep saying on this show and to everybody, the players are partners in this league too. They make it so that it's better for them. Whereas the NBA players, they act like they're not partners, and so they don't play, and it makes it very challenging for the commissioner because he's trying to sell the TV deals, and the ratings are coming way down because the star players don't play. So it's hard. And so the players, that they make the game, and they're rewarded for making the game. We haven't heard it yet, but I bet Brock Purdy's going to make a fortune on those incentives from his rookie cap incentives.
Last minute or so while we're here before we wind things out, you got any bets today? Anything that you want to talk about these last 90 seconds?
No bets, but Bill 80 likes when I force Michael into quick answers.
Go for it.
This is not rapid fire because you have a minute, Michael, but from a betting perspective, over under 5.5 quarterbacks taken in the first round. Are Penix and Nix first round picks?
I would go over that. Yeah, I think so. I think the name that I hear very different reports on is May. And I think Nix is higher by the teams. I was told reliably that the Bears like Nix and the Bears like Penix a long time ago. Now, I'm not saying they don't like Caleb Williams and they're not going to pick Penix or Nix at 1, but I think there's a lot of love within the league for those guys.
Michael, you don't think that that would be teams reaching? Do you think that they're able to start right now, those 6+ guys?
I think if you can get a starting quarterback, you better pick him. Look, Kenny Pickett went, 20th? That was a huge reach. He's the potential starter. I think if you feel like, look, Penix can – the thing with Penix isn't going to be can he start, is can he overcome the injury history that he has at his knees? What's your team doctor going to give him?
It just blows my mind if there were 6 guys that go in the first round. Thank you to Mike Somich for joining us earlier in Hour 1. Mike Palm, of course, as always, being in studio with us for the final half hour. That's a wrap for today's edition of the Lombardi Line. Thanks for hanging out with us. Coming up next on VSiN, Sharp Money. Keep it locked right here and DraftKings Network.